In the far darkness between the stars, a small salvage ship drifted. Quietly, its engines humming low against the silence inside the narrow cockpit, Captain Rin stared at the blinking light on the scanner. It was faint, almost lost in the noise, but was there a ship, a very old one? He called his crew. Two figures shuffled in from the engine room. Vec the tall insectoid with restless hands and Lyra, the quiet navigator whose pale eyes missed nothing. They crowded around the screen staring at. "The little green blip, that's a dead zone out there," Lyra said quietly. "No lanes, no colonies, no reason for anything to be there, which makes it worth checking," Rin said. His voice was calm, but there was a spark in his eyes. Salvage was a gamble. The emptier the space, the better the reward. The ship moved in slowly, the blip grew clearer. The shape began to take form on their monitors. A long, dark hull floating without lights, without beacons, no signal, no movement. The closer they came, the more details emerged. The hull was scorched in places, but most of it looked untouched. Ancient design, heavy armor, thicker than anything modern ships carried. And painted along one side in faded white letters was a word they did not understand. In leaned forward. His translator flickered and then displayed a single word. Humans. Lyra's hands froze above her console. Vec stopped moving entirely. "That word again," Vec said softly. "The Forbidden One." Rin didn't look away from the screen. "You believe those stories?" "I believe the Council made that law for a reason," Lyra said. Her voice was low. "There's one rule every species in the galaxy knows: never disturb the humans." The words hung in the air. The rule was old, older than the Council itself. No one alive had ever met a human. No one had seen their worlds. The legends said they had once ruled much of the galaxy, until something happened, and they vanished into silence. Some said they had gone to sleep, others claimed they had been locked away. The truth was lost. Rin shook his head. "We're not disturbing anyone. We're just looking at derelict ship as free salvage." Lyra looked uneasy, but said nothing. The salvage ship edged closer. The derelict was huge, more like a moving fortress than a vessel. Its design was strange, elegant curves mixed with brutal angles, a predator in metal. When they reached docking range, Rin ordered a scan. The results made Vec's antenna twitch in disbelief. The ship's systems were still intact. Power was low but stable. Life support was running barely. "Life signs, Rin?" asked. Vic shook his head. "None." Rin smiled. "Let's go." They suited up and crossed the docking tube. The airlock door hissed open with surprising ease. A faint breath of warm air brushed past them, carrying a scent of metal and something older, something they couldn't name. The interior was dark, except for faint strips of blue light running along the walls. The silence was heavy, pressing in on their helmets. Every footstep echoed as they moved through corridors built for giants. "No dust." Lyra whispered. "No decavik." Tapped a wall. It rang like stone, solid, stronger than anything we make now. They reached what looked like a central control room. The consoles were dark, but when Rin touched one, it flickered. Two life symbols scrolled across the screen too fast for the translator to catch. Then the screen froze, displaying a single message in Galactic Commandio. "Not touch. Do not wake. Leave IMM-DIATL Wetha." Words burned bright against the dark glass. Lyra stepped back, her heart pounding. "This is not salvage," she said. "This is a warning. We should go in." Frowned. "Maybe it's automated to scare people off. More for us." Vec wasn't so sure. He scanned the room again and froze Captain on the far side of the control room. A door stood half open. Inside was a single cryopod. Frost clung to the glass. A shape lay inside, motionless. A human. Rin moved closer, drawn like a moth to flame. The figure inside was tall with broad shoulders, their skin pale from endless sleep, their hair dark, floating slightly in the frost. They looked peaceful, but there was something about their face, something that made Rin's chest tightened. It was like standing too close to a storm before it breaks. Lyra's voice was sharp. "Rin, step away now." But Rin's hand was already reaching for the console. Inside the pod, small lights blinked in slow, steady rhythm, like the beat of a sleeping heart. "We should report this," Vec said quickly. "The Council will want to know and lose the find of a lifetime." Rin shook his head. "Do you know what this is worth? One living human? The stories alone will make us rich, that's if we live to tell them." Lyra snapped. She was backing toward the door. Her instincts screamed danger, every part of her Training told her the rule wasn't superstition, it was survival. Then the lights in the room dimmed, the blue strips along the walls faded to red. A low hum began to rise from deep within the ship. The air grew warmer. Vic glanced at his scanner and his antenna flattened. Captain, the pod systems just activated. I didn't touch anything. The frost on the glass began to melt, slowly dripping down the surface. Inside, the human's chest rose and fell once, twice. Lyra's voice was shaking. We have to leave now? But it was too late. The pod released a hiss of air. The glass slid upward with a soft mechanical sigh. The human's eyes opened. They were not the eyes of someone waking from a long dream. They were sharp, aware, ancient. The gaze locked onto Rin and held him frozen in place. The human sat up slowly, every movement precise, controlled. Their voice, when it came, was low, but it carried through the room without effort. Who broke the rule? No one spoke. No one moved. The hum in the ship grew louder. The red lights pulsed in rhythm with the human's heartbeat. The human stood towering over them. Their presence filled the room, pressing on the crew like invisible weight. The silence stretched until it was unbearable. Then they smiled, but it was not a smile of kindness. It seems the galaxy has forgotten why it feared us, they said softly from somewhere far beyond the ship. A deep sound rolled through the void like distant thunder. Vec's scanner beeped wildly, multiple signals approaching. Fast, the human turned toward the door. Come, we must leave. Rin hesitated. Leave where? Run anywhere. But here, the human said, for if I am awake, others will come. The crew followed reluctantly. The corridors seemed shorter now, as if the ship itself was guiding them. Their own vessel waited silently in the docking tube, but as they approached, the lights flickered and the engines powered down without anyone touching them. The humans stepped aboard without asking permission. Their gaze swept over every corner of the salvage ship, as if judging its worth. Lyra felt her throat tighten. Who are you? She asked. The human looked at her. The last of your warnings, they said, and perhaps the last of your chances. Outside in the darkness, shapes were moving, closing in. The rule had been broken, and the galaxy was already answering in the black stillness of space. The salvage ship drifted away from the derelict, but not fast enough. The humans sat silently in the cockpit, their eyes fixed on the void ahead. Rin kept glancing at them, unsure if they were a passenger or something far more dangerous. Lyra's hands moved over the controls with quick, nervous precision. Vex sat rigid, antenna twitching. The sensors beeped. A cluster of fast-moving objects appeared on the edge of the scanner, hundreds of them. Rin's stomach tightened. Ships, Lyra whispered. Her voice was barely more than breathier, broadcasting in 50 languages, Vex said, scanning the signals. Every single one says the same thing. One has awakened. The human's gaze shifted slowly to him. And now they will come to kill Mirren. Turned sharply. Why? They don't even know. Youth human leaned forward, their face close to the glass, staring at the dark shapes approaching. I am not an individual. To them, I am a species, and they remember what we did. Outside, the approaching fleet began to form a wall of ships. Each vessel bristled with weapons. Rin's ship was tiny compared to them. The comms crackled. A deep alien voice commanded them to shut down their engines and prepare to be boarded. Failure will result in immediate destruction. We can't fight that, Rin said quietly. You can't, the human corrected. Their voice was calm, almost cold, but I can before anyone could speak. The human touched the console with one hand. The controls lit up, though Rin had not given them access. The salvage ship's systems surged to life. Weapons appeared in the targeting display systems. Their vessel had never been built to have. Lyra's jaw dropped. Alien voice on the comms shouted another warning, but the human ignored it. Outside, the nearest warship suddenly tilted, as if struck by an invisible force. Then its engines flared uncontrollably, and it spun away, drifting powerless. What did you just do? Vec asked. The human's expression did not change. I told their ship to remember Fear One. By one, other alien vessels began to back away, firing at the salvage ship in desperation. But the human's eyes glowed faintly, and the blasts bent away, missing. By impossible margins, a shockwave rolled through the battlefield. The alien fleet broke formation, scattering like prey before a predator. The sudden quiet. The humans stood and walked to the rear of the cockpit without looking back. They said they will keep coming, and each time they will bring more, until the galaxy is forced to remember why it made the rule rin, swallowed hard and followed. He keeps saying, remember what happened. The humans stopped at the doorway and turned slowly the last time. One of us woke, entire civilizations fell in a single day. The lights flickered, a faint vibration ran through the hole. Lyra checked her sensors. Something's wrong, she said, another signal. It's not the fleet, it's bigger. The human's eyes narrowed, something ancient and cold was moving through the void toward them, and this, they said softly, is what they built to kill us. The signal grew stronger until it filled every screen with a single pulsing shape. It was no ship, no planet, not even a station. It moved like a living thing, and yet its form was built of black metal and armor thicker than anything known to the galaxy. It swallowed the faint starlight around it, leaving only a shadow where its body. Past Lyra stared at it in disbelief. I don't see an engine signature, she whispered. How is it moving? It does not move, the human said quietly. Space moves for it. The salvage ship's alarms screamed, the object's size dwarfed the largest carriers. Its edges bristled with weapons, but there was no heat, no energy reading, just cold. And Silence Vex's voice shook. That's not possible. I've read about this in restricted files, the hunter. They said it was a myth. Human's expression was unreadable. It is no myth. It was built for one purpose only, to destroy my kind, and now it knows I'm awake. A sudden burst of static ripped through the comms. Then a voice emerged, low and metallic, but carrying weight like a collapsing star. The voice spoke in every language at once awakened human. You will not survive the second hunt without. Warning, the thing changed direction, hurtling toward them. It did not burn through space like a normal ship. It simply became closer every heartbeat, as if reality bent around it. Lyra threw the ship into evasive maneuvers, but the distance kept closing. The human stepped forward. Place us in its path. You insane, Rin snapped it. Will catch us anyway, the human said. If we run, we die. If we meet it head on. There is a chance. The hunter loomed ahead, its surface shifting like liquid metal, a massive aperture opened at its center, glowing faintly with a cold blue light. It was charging something. Lyra's voice broke. We can't survive that blast. We won't have to, the human said calmly. They closed their eyes, and the air inside the salvage ship seemed to thicken. The lights dimmed, the hum of the engines faded. Even the sound of their own breathing grew distant. Then outside, the stars vanished, replaced by a black void. The hunter's massive shape froze, mid-charge locked. The salvage ship was still. The galaxy was still. Everything had stopped except for them and the humanvic. Mandibles clicked. What did you just do? The human's voice was soft. I paused. The moment it will not last long. Now listen carefully. There's a message moving through the galaxy right now. A warning. A declaration that one of us lives. Entire fleets will come, not to save you, to destroy Marin. I tried to steady his voice. Anus, the human's gaze met his flat and unblinking. If you remain with me, yes. A deep vibration rippled through the frozen space. The stars wavered. The hunter twitched slightly, breaking the hold. The human's jaw tightened. Time's grip is ending. We must decide. Lyra gripped the controls hard. Decide what weather you will stand with me against. What is coming, the human said. Or abandon me and hope the rule will keep you safe. And then time broke. The stars returned. The hunter's glow flared white, and the void around them erupted into motion again. The white light from the hunter's core flared like a newborn star. Then, without warning, it vanished. Not faded, vanished, as if something had swallowed the energy before it could be unleashed. Inside the salvage ship, the hunter hung motionless, its weapons dormant, the surrounding void utterly still. No movement, no sound. Even the distant twinkle of stars was gone. It was as if the universe had stopped breathing. Lyra's eyes went wide. Captain, I think everything's frozen. Vex's antenna twitched wildly. He tapped his scanner. Nothing. No traffic, no fleet signals, no movement from any celestial body, not even background radiation. We're sitting inside a dead clockrin. Turned to the human. What did you do? The human didn't answer right away. They moved to the viewport, staring at the hunter's frozen form. Their voice was low. The last time this happened, it marked the beginning of the end for 1,000 worlds. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Lyra broke the silence. How far does this go? Farther than your sensors can measure. The human replied, "Every ship, every station, every planet and range is locked in this moment. Time will hold as long as I remain awake and willing." Rin's mouth went dry. "And why do I feel like that's not a good thing?" "Because the galaxy built the rule for a reason," the human said without turning back. "Because once we were not many, but everywhere. We ruled without fleets, without armies, without ships. And when they could not defeat us in war, they made a choice. They built something worse, though." Hunter Lyra whispered. The human finally looked at them. Yes, but the hunter was not alone. It was one of many. Meant to. Indus all built from the same fear. Now only one remains, this one. And even it is afraid enough to hesitate. Vix's voice was tight. "Then why did they put you to sleep?" "Because power unrestrained destroys everything it touches," the human said. "My kind chose sleep to spare the galaxy from extinction. We made the rule ourselves. We warned them never disturb us. We believed they would." Oberon frowned. "So who broke it?" The human's expression darkened. "There is a faction out there. A coalition of desperate races. They think they can control us, use us to topple the council. They think the rule is a prison, but they do not know the truth, and the truth is what." Rin asked carefully. "That the rule was not a prison," the human said softly. "It was a shield for them, not for us." The silence in the frozen void felt heavier after that. The hunter still hung in space, locked in its half-finished strike, but faint cracks began to ripple through the stillness. Stars flickered. The feeling of motion returned. In small shivers, Slayer's voice was tense. "Whatever you're doing, it's ending, isn't it?" The human nodded. "Soon the galaxy will start again, and when it does, the fleets will arrive. Not just the hunter, not just one species. Every single one that remembers will come for us." Rin stared hard at them. "And you expect us to fight them all?" The human's gaze was steady. "I expect you to choose. Do you stand beside the last human, or do you run and pray you were never here?" The first sound to return was faint cum chatter from distant ships. Then the hunter's massive body shifted again. The glow inside its core reignited. Time was waking. And with it, the war outside. The human stepped toward the viewport again. Their eyes were bright and sharp. "Let it wake, we have work to do." Frozen void shattered. The universe roared back to life, and the war began again in the space of a single heartbeat. The hunter's core blazed back to life, spilling cold blue light across the salvage ship's hull. This time it did not hesitate. The glow built in steady, terrifying pulses, and the space around it warped, as if reality itself was bending. Toward its center, Lyra's voice was sharp. "We can't take that hit. Not even for a second." Rin's hands clenched on the controls engines. "To full burn everything we've got." The human did not move. They stood perfectly still in the center of the cockpit, watching the hunter close in. Then they spoke calmly. "It will not stop until I am gone. That is its purpose. It will burn stars if it must." Vic Santana twitched. "What exactly is that thing?" "A weapon older than your oldest history." The human said. "It was built not by one species, but by many together. They forged it from their fear. It is alive enough to think and dead enough to obey one command. Kill humans." The hunter's massive aperture widened. The light inside became so bright it hurt to look at, and then with a soundless lurch, something else appeared from deep space, a shadow larger than the hunter itself. First Rin thought it was a moon drifting in the dark, but it was moving too fast, and its surface shifted like a living sea of metal. Dozens of glowing eyes opened across its hull, each one staring directly at the salvage ship. The human's voice lowered. "Others are coming, not for you." For Malira's sensors exploded with new readings. "This isn't just a ship, it's something alive, and it's not in our database. It is a living weapon," the human said. Their tone was flat, almost bitter. "Built long ago to hunt us through the dark until none remained. I thought they destroyed it when they thought they destroyed us." The shadow creature pulsed with an inner light. A ripple passed across its surface, and in an instant the space between it and the salvage ship vanished. One moment it was distant. The next it loomed so close they could see the shifting plates of its skin. Rin swore. "We can't fight both of these." "You can't," the human said. "Again, I can. But if I do, you will see why the rule was made, and you may wish you hadn't." Hunter and the living weapon circled slowly on either side, trapping them in a silent, deadly triangle. The cum crackled unexpectedly. A voice hissed through the static, low and sly. "We woke you for a reason, human. Don't make us regret. Etrin's eyes narrowed. Who the hell is that? The human didn't answer. Their eyes were fixed on the darkness beyond. The two great hunters, a small formation of sleek ships, was approaching fast. Their design was alien, but not hostile at least not toward the human. The voice on the come continued smooth and confident. We broke the rules so you could end the council. They fear you, but we will give you the galaxy again. The human finally spoke cold and clear, and when I am finished with them, what will you do with me? The voice laughed softly. We will keep you sleeping. Till we need you again. The human's eyes darkened. Then you will learn why my kind never made deals. The living weapon shifted plates like a beast preparing to strike. The hunter's glow swelled toward detonation. Ash! And the space between all three pulsed with attention. So sharp it felt like it might cut through the hole. The human took a slow step forward, toward the viewport, and whispered three words that made the crew's skin crawl. Let them try. The cum channel stayed open, but the voice on the other side went silent, as if sensing the change in the air. The human stood motionless in the cockpit, their eyes fixed on the two great hunters outside. The crew could feel it too. Something heavy pressing against their minds like the weight of a deep ocean. The living weapon twitched. First plates along its body slid apart, revealing rows of strange, organic machinery glowing faintly. The hunter answered by narrowing its massive aperture and locking its aim directly on the human's position. Neither fired yet, but the space between them was a no-man's land of certain death. Lyra's hands trembled over the controls. We're not surviving this. She glanced at the human. Unless you can do that time freeze trick again. No, the human said. That was a mercy. This will not be. Then the sleek alien ships arrived, dropping out of FTL like silver spears. They moved with impossible precision, forming a protective wall around the salvage ship. Every scanner in the cockpit flared red. The newcomers were armed far beyond anything Rin had ever seen. The cum hissed again. The same voice purred. We are the ones who broke the rule. Human, we brought you back to finish what you began long ago. The galaxy has forgotten the fear of your kind, and we will help them remember. And gritted his teeth. What makes you think you can control this? The voice chuckled. We don't need control. We need chaos enough to break the council's hold, enough to rebuild the galaxy with us at the center. And you, human, are our blade. The human finally turned to face the crew. Their expression was unreadable, but there was no warmth in their voice. They believe they can unleash me without cost. They are wrong, Vic. S antenna twitched nervously. Wrong how? Because once I begin, there is no stopping me, the human said softly. My kind chose sleep because we knew the cost. We knew what happens when we let go. The living weapon suddenly emitted a low pulse that made every panel in the cockpit flicker. The hunter began charging again, and the silver fleet moved to engage the space outside, erupted into light and fire inside. The cockpit alarms screamed. The salvage ship rocked as nearby blasts rippled across its shields. Rin gripped the controls hard, trying to keep them from being torn apart. The human closed their eyes for a moment, and when they opened them, something had changed. Their gaze was brighter, sharper, almost inhuman. He stepped forward, ignoring the chaos, and pressed one hand against the cockpit glass outside. The nearest of the sleek alien ships suddenly crumpled in on itself, not from weapons fire, but as if an invisible fist had crushed it. The crew stared in shock as the wreck drifted silently into the void. Lyra's voice was a whisper. You just killed your own allies. The human didn't look away from the battle. They were never my allies. They broke the rule for ambition, not survival. The living weapon lunged forward, its massive form cutting through space like a predator. The hunter moved to flank, and the silver fleet scattered, trying to avoid being destroyed in the crossfire. The human turned from the viewport and looked at Rin and his crew. The choice you made when you boarded my ship brought you here. Now you will decide if you will stand beside me or be swept away with the rest. The ship shuddered violently as a blast from the hunter grazed its shields. Vex shouted. We have seconds, not minutes. The human's voice was calm. Then choose now. The ship's hull groaned under the strain of the battle. Outside, the glow from the hunter's core bathed the cockpit in cold light, while the living weapon's shadow rolled across them like a dark tide. Every alarm screamed at once, warning of imminent shield failures. Knuckles were white on the controls. If we stay here, we're dead. If we run, we're dead. Faster, the human stood, In the center of the cockpit, calm, as if the chaos outside was nothing but background noise, their eyes locked on Rin and the crew. "There is something you need to understand. I am the last of my kind, the only human left alive. If I die, the rule will mean nothing, because there will be no one left to fear." Bix's antenna twitched nervously. "And if you live," the human's gaze sharpened. "If I live, the galaxy changes forever." Lyra's voice shook. "Are you saying you can actually stop those things?" "I can," the human said, "but not without cost. Every time I use what I am, I burn the memory of it into the minds of all who see it. That is the real reason for the rule. Fear not. Respect keeps civilizations alive. Outside the living weapon let out a pulse so strong it cracked the salvage ship's outer plating. A thin line of red warning lights ran across the ceiling. Rin swore, "We can't take another hit like that." The human stepped forward toward the viewport, pressing one hand against the glass again. Their voice dropped to a low, almost reverent tone. "This will be the second time in history my kind has fought these things. The first time we erased them from existence. This time there will be nothing left to rebuild them." The space outside warped. The stars stretched and bent as if pulled toward the human. A deep vibration rolled through the ship, making the crew's teeth ache. The hunter's massive core flickered the living weapon, hesitated, as if sensing something ancient and dangerous. Waking before a Trin stared wide-eyed. "What are you doing, showing them why they were right to fear us?" the human said. Then everything exploded into motion. The hunter tried to fire, but its core imploded inward with a soundless ripple. The living weapon lunged, but stopped mid-charge, its body twisting and collapsing in on itself like metal being crushed by invisible hands. In seconds, both were gone, reduced to drifting fragments of dead matter. The silence that followed was suffocating. The crew could hear their own breathing and the faint hum of their struggling engines. Rin finally found his voice. "You just ended them." The human turned slowly. Their eyes glowed faintly, as if lit from within. "The galaxy will know this moment. They will feel it in their bones. Even those who are not here will dream of it and wake in terror. That is how fear survives." Vex swallowed. "What happens now?" Human's expression softened, just slightly now. "The galaxy will come for us in numbers you cannot imagine. But it will not be to destroy me. It will be to stop what happens next." Lyra hesitated. "And what happens next?" The humans stepped closer, lowering their voice. "Now, I make a new rule." The salvage ship drifted in the silent aftermath of the battle. The void around them was littered with fragments of the hunter and the living weapon, twisted shards of impossible metal, tumbling away into darkness. The stars seemed colder now, as if they too had witnessed something they would rather forget. No one in the cockpit spoke for a long time. The crew sat in stunned quiet, the weight of what they had just seen pressing on them like the deep gravity of a dead world. Rin's hands were still on the controls, but he barely noticed Lyra's eyes kept flicking to the sensors, as if expecting something else to appear. Vex stared at the human, not daring to blink. Finally, Rin broke the silence. "You said you were going to make a new rule?" The human's gaze moved from one crew member to the next. Their voice was calm, steady. "Every species in the galaxy knows the first rule: never disturb the humans. But that rule was made for their sake, not ours. It kept them safe from us." Lyra's voice was barely a whisper. "And the second rule," the humans stepped closer, until they were standing in the center of the cockpit, framed by the starlight spilling through the viewport. "The second rule," they said slowly, "is not for them. It is for you, for those who stood here and saw what I am." Amren's voice tightened. "What are you?" Saying, the human's eyes seemed to catch the faint light from the drifting wreckage outside. "The second rule is this: if a human wakes, you will follow them." Vex's antenna twitched. "Follow, or be destroyed," the human finished, without hesitation. "Not by fleets or weapons, but by me." The words hung heavy in the air. Lyra felt a chill crawl up her spine. "You're talking about ruling the galaxy again." The human didn't blink. "I am talking about guiding it. Whether that means ruling or saving depends on whether they listen." Outside, the void began to shimmer. Faint signatures appeared on the edges of the sensors. Dozens at first, then hundreds, ships from every corner of the galaxy rushing toward the coordinates drawn by the psychic echo of what had happened. Huron's throat tightened. "They're coming." The human's voice was calm. "Let them come. They will not find a weapon. They will find their ruler, the first wave of ships broke from FTL surrounding the salvage vessel, their come channels. Lit up with demands, threats, and fearful questions, the humans simply stood still in the center of the cockpit, eyes locked on the growing fleet. Then they spoke again. It was not just to the crew, but to every mind within range. "I am awake, the rule has changed." The words rippled through the coms like a pulse. The fleet outside shifted formation. Some ships retreated, some stayed motionless as if waiting. Others began to kneel in space, lowering their weapons, turning their bows toward the humans. Ship in the cockpit, Rin felt the truth settle in his chest. The galaxy would never be the same again, and far away in the dark corners of the universe, other humans long hidden opened their eyes.